My bad. Stephen A. Smith says that Detroit Pistons are in danger of being eliminated in round one of the playoffs. So let's let it ride like um, Dr. Dre. So let's hope.
Side of the ball, I think ultimately comes back to haunt them against the likes of a team like the Boston.
Risk of being eliminated. To remind everyone, the top two seeds in the West, Thunder and Spurs. In the East, it's the Celtics and the Pistons. Wendy, why don't you go first? Which one of those top two seeds on each conference is in danger?
I feel like we have been in a constant state of disrespect of the Detroit Pistons for a couple of months now because Cade had an all-NBA season. I'm going to vote for Jalen Duren for most improved, and I think he's on the borderline of making all-NBA. JB Bickerstaff did a terrific job of keeping this team together, and more than anything, I think that they got better as a team when Cade went out, which is an ode to their players and their coaching staff. But as I look at the relative strength of these four teams and how good the Celtics have looked since Jason Tatum comes back, you got to rank one of them most vulnerable in this question, and I have to say the Pistons.
I agree with you. I agree with you about Jalen Durham, but I agree with you about the Pistons because where's that second viable offensive option? JB Bickerstaff has done a great job. I think he's a Coach of the Year candidate. I think they're Rough Riders, and I think going through Detroit, anybody's going to have a tough time beating them. I think all of that stuff is true. But in the end, their lack of experience and their lack of depth on the offensive side of the ball, I think ultimately comes back to haunt them against the likes of a team like the Boston Celtics. And I think could spell their doom, even though they've had their way with Boston during the regular season. That's just where I'm at with it. I can't say the same about San Antonio. Their youth could get in the way, but they got that 7'5" cat. Oklahoma City's the reigning defending NBA champions. And the Boston Celtics have won a title recently, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are accustomed to playing in conference finals. They just know how to win during the postseason. During the postseason, they just do. And so, to me, the unproven commodity in all of this is the Detroit Pistons. So I can't disagree with you there.
Right, we just don't know what the health of Cade is going to be either. A collapsed lung, like this is something we don't understand how he's going to come back. Is he going to be at full strength, etc. Stephen A. Earlier this.
So they have no respect, and understandably so. They've seen Boston do it before. The Spurs are really good, and the Thunder. I don't fear Boston though. I don't think the coach is really good in Boston. I know people gonna get pushback. That's just my opinion, especially when he's a guy that tells them continuously, shoot threes, shoot threes, shoot threes, shoot threes, shoot threes until you can't shoot them no more. But they're a good defensive team. I'm a huge Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown fan. But at the end of the day, he feel the way he feel. Everybody else is competitive. Only team that out of the four that he named that really gave us problems with San Antonio. The guy in the middle is a problem. But come playoff time, only time will really tell how it goes. But he's a really, really unique he's a really unique type of player. So it don't really surprise me none. But ultimately, I think the Pistons are the correct answer here, because for the most part, three of the other teams you speak on, or two of them have won the world championship recently. So yeah, I kind of understand that. And the Pistons gonna always be behind the 8 ball because they don't really respect the Detroit Pistons, the players on the team. They really don't respect K like that. If we keep it in a bean, they don't respect him like that. So they got to go out there and take their respect. They don't talk about collectively as defenders. They don't speak on that, how great defensively they are. And they talk about the lack of depth offensively. I disagree there. It's got a bunch of guys that can get a bucket from Jenkins to LeVert to, Herter to Jalen Duren is getting buckets. But to them, you need to have that guy, you need to have that guy respectively. And they just don't see that guy next to them, that Kobe to Shaq, or that, Shaq to Penny, or, that, De'Aaron Fox to to Wemby. You know, they don't see that. And at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. But um, I mean, it's nobody really to fear. Only matchup I really don't like for them is you really just don't like that Spurs matchup. You know, that I'll be honest. But the first one was good and competitive. They went on the road. It wasn't so good, but the playoffs is a wild card, and one of the reasons the playoffs end up being a wild card is because of the injuries now. So a lot of these guys they don't really have attrition. The playoffs become a war of attrition now. Um, and a lot of these guys they can't really when it's time to really dig deep and play through pain they get injured or they just not good at playing through pain. So uh but yeah, man. But the Pistons are an unknown commodity. And I'm with the Pistons, but only thing I really disagree with is okay, health might still be in the air. Only thing I really disagree with is the fact that offensively they don't have depth. They just don't have the names that y'all like. But right, if they can just get what they got last year, adding Duran. Hopefully Duran gets out of foul trouble. Stu could add something that wasn't there, and they can just get somebody that can do what or do something. Because no offense, but Malik Beasley just didn't do anything last year for us. Obviously he was a negative. He was taking away a lot of the positive thing that last pass, and he dropped it between his legs, and that probably gave validity to his situation going on in court. That probably gave people like, man, he tripping. But ultimately, the Pistons got to take their respect. And I mean, you like to think all championships were created equal, but when you start winning championships like the Detroit Pistons, they're not created equal because they don't want you there. They want the Lakers, they want the Celtics, they want Miami, they want where Michael Jordan was at. They want those guys there, but ultimately, when Detroit win a championship, or Indiana's fortunate enough to get one, or Orlando is fortunate to get one, you see how they got Shaq the hell up out of there, didn't they? They packed Shaq up expeditiously. You know, they don't want small markets to get championships. So you got to remember that when teams like OKC win one, or the Spurs win one, that's really like the equivalent of like 10. But hey, it is what it is, man. Let me know what you girls and guys think. Thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. Peace.